course teaches storytelling. But without people, there would be no stories. Stories, after all, are made by the people, for the people, and with them, expressing their deepest needs and hopes. Perhaps for this reason, there's no more universally captivating story than that of how human life begins. Where do we each come from? Where are we going? Well, it all starts with a baby. So let's talk about babies and causal connections. For generations, parents all around the world have sought ways to explain to their children where babies come from. For all kinds of reasons, the topic was veiled in the shrouds of euphemism or fiction. You may have heard about babies found in cabbages or about miracle births after prayer. Across cultures, however, the idea that storks bring babies was used liberally as a response to the child's question, "Mommy, where did I come from?" At first blush, the fictitious story of storks bringing babies might be just that, a story. But, as Professor Robert Matthews of Aston University has shown tongue-in-cheek, one may in fact bring some empirical evidence in support of this hypothesis. Looking at the problem in a statistical sense, he found that there is an unexpected variable correlated with the number of babies born in late 20th century Europe. That variable is number of storks. Well, storks, yes, as those in the Pixar animation movie. This is a trick, right? Well, yes and no. It depends how you interpret the numbers, which shows that determining causality with numbers is a tricky thing indeed. In a teaching statistics paper from 2000, Professor Robert Matthews found a significant correlation between number of storks and number of babies born with a p-value of 0.008 across 17 European countries between 1981 and 1990. This means that if we were to repeat the observation 10,000 times, we would still get the same correlation. Was Professor Matthews serious? While we can assure you that Professor Matthews' numbers are valid, his intention was to show that not all correlations are causal. You are not wrong to assume that babies don't in fact come from storks. Rather, storks and babies are associated by coincidence. We call this a spurious relationship. This happens when two things are related to a third factor. Now, before revealing the mystery of storks and babies, let us define causality. If we can show that a phenomenon is the unique driving force of another, we can say they are causally related. Now, while the idea might sound simple, demonstrating the unique nature of the causal relationship is not. Generally speaking, causal relationships need to meet three requirements. The first one is covariation, the idea that two elements change together. We saw this in the stork example. If more storks correspond to more babies and less storks correspond to less babies, the two may be connected. Think of the opposite. If at some times of high childbirth there were many storks, while at others there were no storks, it would be hard to argue for a connection. But is that enough? If it were, we might have to admit that babies are delivered by storks, at least in Europe. The second requirement for causality states that the cause must precede the consequence. In a famous study that looked at the image of the Earth from space at night, someone observed the stark difference between North and South Korea. The lack of economic development was reflected in a lack of electric power and nighttime illumination. Now, no one would claim that the lack of light itself induced somehow North Korea's economic collapse. It is important to note that temporal order needs some prior knowledge of how the world works. For example, you see fire trucks rushing down the street. There must be a fire somewhere. Yet, you would not think that the firefighters set the fire too, would you? But even if correlation and temporal order were present, this is still not enough. There's one last condition: ruling out alternative explanations. In order to be able to show causality, we should be able to show that our, and not some other simultaneous cause, led to the consequence we're explaining. Or at least we should be able to show that our explanation is the simplest or most likely one. Here, finally, our storks and babies story breaks apart. Both stork arrivals and baby births occur in spring. which simultaneously offers better weather for migratory birds, like storks, and it happens approximately 9 months after the summer, when many human couples take vacations, spend more time together, and choose to enlarge their families. In the presence of better explanations, we must let go of the stork theory, as romantic as it might sound. Granted, we might not always be able to rule out all alternative explanations when defending a causal mechanism, which is why scientific theories are constantly revised and improved as new options are tested. In the context of storytelling, this might be good news. If we can always find new, potentially better causes for unexpected phenomena, there's no such thing as running out of stories to tell. As long as we can reliably challenge an older explanation, we can give our audiences something new to engage with and teach a valuable lesson. We just need to keep looking.